Welcome back to ZE Coins. Today, we're diving deep into the story of one of the most fascinating coins ever produced by the United States Mint, the 1968 Washington quarter dollar. This little piece of silver-colored metal might look like any ordinary coin, but in the world of numismatics, it holds a surprising history, hidden varieties, and in rare cases, an absolutely jaw-dropping value that will leave you speechless. So sit back, relax, and get ready as we uncover everything about the 1968 Washington quarter, from its design, mint marks, and composition, to the specific details that make some of these coins worth thousands of dollars today. And yes, we'll reveal one that sold for an unbelievable $56,270. To truly understand why the 1968 Washington quarter is special, we first need to travel back a few years, to the early and mid-1960s. Before 1965, all U.S. quarters were struck in 90% silver and 10% copper. But the rising price of silver in the early 60s caused chaos in the coin world. People started hoarding coins for their silver content, and the U.S. Mint quickly realized it had a problem. The nation was running out of circulating coins. So, in 1965, a major change was made. The mint switched from silver to a new copper-nickel clad composition, a coin with a pure copper core sandwiched between two layers of nickel. This was a monumental decision that shaped U.S. coinage for generations. By 1968, the mint was still refining the production of these new clad coins. It was also the first time mint marks returned to coins since 1965. From 1965 to 1967, all mint marks were removed in an effort to discourage coin hoarding. But starting in 1968, the mint began proudly placing its tiny identifying letter back on coins once again. The 1968 Washington quarter kept the same design that first appeared in 1932, celebrating the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. On the obverse side, or the front of the coin, we see a left-facing portrait of George Washington. The word "Liberty" is boldly inscribed above his head, while "In God We Trust" rests just to the left. Below the neck of Washington, the year 1968 is neatly placed. Now, if you look closely, you'll notice something else, a tiny letter, usually found just to the right of Washington's hair ribbon. That's the mint mark. And depending on which letter appears there, the coin's story, and its value, could change dramatically. In 1968, Washington quarters were minted in 3 different places: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint left its mark, quite literally, on the coins it produced. Philadelphia Mint, quarters from Philadelphia in 1968 carry no mint mark. These coins were struck in massive numbers, primarily for everyday circulation. Denver Mint quarters with a small d on the obverse side were produced in Denver. The Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of these coins, making them the most common variety of 1968 quarters. San Francisco Mint, S. The S mint mark tells a different story. San Francisco produced both proof coins and circulation strikes. However, in 1968, most S-marked quarters were proof coins, specially made for collectors using polished dies and planchets. Proof coins have a mirror-like surface and sharp details, which makes them incredibly beautiful, and sometimes extremely valuable. The 1968 quarter is made of 75% copper and 25% nickel, bonded to a pure copper core. Each coin weighs about 5.67 grams and measures 24.3 millimeters in diameter. Unlike the silver quarters before 1965, these coins contain no silver at all. But don't let that fool you. Some special varieties of 1968 quarters have been found struck on silver planchets by mistake. Yes, silver planchet errors do exist, and when they show up, collectors go absolutely wild. Now, this is where things get really exciting. You see, not all 1968 quarters were created equally. The U.S. Mint, as efficient as it tries to be, sometimes makes mistakes, and these errors create coins that collectors crave. Here are some of the most fascinating 1968 Washington quarter errors. Off-center strikes. When the coin is not perfectly centered during striking, part of the design gets cut off. The more off-center it is, while still showing the date, the more valuable it can be. Clipped planchets. These occur when the metal blank was improperly cut, leaving a bite or curved section missing from the coin. Double dies. If the coin die is misaligned during production, it can create doubling in the letters or numbers, especially noticeable on Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date, 1968. Transitional errors. Some rare examples were struck on leftover 90% silver planchets from 1964 or 1965. If a 1968 quarter tests positive for silver content, it's an incredibly rare find that could fetch tens of thousands of dollars. These mistakes may sound like imperfections, but in the world of coin collecting, they are pure treasure. In 1968, the San Francisco Mint resumed the production of proof coins, beautifully polished examples meant for collectors, not circulation. These proofs were struck multiple times under higher pressure to ensure every detail popped perfectly. You can spot them easily because of their glossy, mirror-like finish and sharp design. The proof quarters with the S Mint mark were packaged and sold directly to collectors through the U.S. Mint's proof sets. However, some of these proof coins never made it into the sets. Instead, they were sold separately, mishandled, or later graded as ultra-rare deep cameo proofs. A deep cameo 1968 S Washington quarter, with a sharp frosted portrait and mirror-like background, can bring enormous value in the collector's market, especially in perfect condition. Grading and condition. Why quality matters most in coin collecting. Condition is king. The better preserved your 1968 quarter is, the higher its value can climb. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, known as the Sheldon scale. A coin graded MS 70, mint state 70, means it's in perfect, flawless condition, just as it left the mint, with no scratches, marks, or wear. Here's how the scale roughly breaks down for the 1968 quarter. Circulated coins. These are worth only face value or slightly more, unless they have an error or rare variety. Uncirculated coins. These can fetch a few dollars to several hundred, depending on the mint mark. High-grade examples, MS 66, MS 70. Now we're talking serious collector value. Coins in this range, especially from the San Francisco Mint with deep cameo proof quality, are where things get incredibly interesting. For most common coins, especially those from the Philadelphia or Denver mints in circulated condition, the value is between 25 cents and a few dollars. Uncirculated examples might go for $10 to $30 depending on the grade, but for rare proof coins or error coins, especially from the San Francisco Mint, the story changes dramatically. In fact, one exceptional 1968 S proof Washington quarter, graded by a top grading service as a PR 70 deep cameo, made headlines among coin collectors. It was sold at a major coin auction for an amount that stunned even the experts. Imagine holding a simple 25-cent coin that ends up being worth as much as a brand new luxury car. That's exactly what happened when one of these pristine 1968 S proof quarters crossed the auction block. It wasn't just any coin, it was a flawless proof, perfectly struck, and preserved in immaculate condition for decades. The frosted portrait of George Washington gleamed against its mirror-like background like a work of art. When the auctioneer called the final bid, the room erupted in astonishment. The hammer came down at an unbelievable final price, $56,270. That's right, a single 1968 quarter, originally worth just 25 cents, transformed into a small fortune thanks to its perfection and rarity. Millions of 1968 quarters were made, and while most are common, there's always the possibility that a rare proof or error coin slipped through the cracks and ended up in circulation. It's not impossible to find one hiding in an old coin jar, a drawer, or a family coin collection. We're diving deep into one of America's most fascinating coins, the 1978 Washington quarter dollar, a piece that most people overlook every single day. But believe it or not, one of these little coins could turn out to be worth an absolutely jaw-dropping fortune. So grab your magnifying glasses, settle in, and get ready, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why a 1978 Washington quarter could be hiding a secret that might change your luck forever. Let's set the stage. The year was 1978, a year of transformation in the United States. Disco music ruled the dance floors. The first cellular phone was being developed. Jimmy Carter was in the White House, and NASA was preparing for new frontiers in space exploration. But while the world danced under mirrored lights, at the U.S. Mint, something quite different was happening. Millions of Washington quarters were being struck, each carrying the image of George Washington on the front and the majestic bald eagle on the reverse. Now, these quarters weren't made of silver anymore. That stopped in 1965. By 1978, they were made from a copper-nickel-clad composition. Ordinary metal, right? But as any collector will tell you, even ordinary materials can become extraordinary with the right combination of rarity, mint mark, and condition. The Washington Quarter has been an American classic since 1932. It was originally designed to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, the first president of the United States. The designer, John Flanagan, crafted a portrait that captured Washington's courage, leadership, and enduring legacy. From 1932 to 1998, that portrait remained almost unchanged, and in 1978, the Mint continued this proud tradition. But what makes the 1978 quarter special isn't just the design, it's the tiny details that can make a massive difference in value. Every U.S. coin tells a story through its mint mark, a small letter that reveals where it was made. At first glance, these little letters seem insignificant. But to collectors, they're like a secret code that can reveal rarity, production quality, and even errors that happened during minting. For example, the 1978 Washington Quarter was produced in Denver with a large mintage, over 300 million coins. The Philadelphia Mint, on the other hand, created about 600 million coins without any mint mark at all. And the San Francisco Mint made proof coins, polished, mirror-like specimens intended for collectors. But here's where things get really interesting, because not every 1978 quarter came out perfectly. Some had striking errors, die cracks, or off-center misprints. And these rare imperfections can turn a common quarter into a collector's dream. Imagine you're holding a 1978 quarter. It looks normal, until you notice something strange. Maybe Washington's face seems doubled, or the edge of the coin looks slightly off. Maybe part of the design is missing. During minting, things don't always go perfectly. Dies can shift, metal blanks can misalign, or details can be stamped twice. And because these mistakes are unintentional, they're incredibly rare, and collectors will pay top dollar to own one. Double die obverse, where parts of Washington's face or lettering are doubled. Off-center strike, where the coin design is visibly shifted. Clipped planchet, where a portion of the coin's edge is missing. Wrong planchet error, when a quarter was mistakenly struck on a nickel or penny blank. Each of these errors can multiply a coin's value exponentially, turning pocket change into a prized artifact. Now, even if your coin doesn't have an error, it can still be valuable, depending on its condition. Collectors grade coins on a scale from poor all the way to perfect mint state. The closer to perfect, the higher the value. For the 1978 Washington Quarter, most circulated examples are worth only their face value, 25 cents. But uncirculated examples, especially those with sharp detail and bright luster, can bring in significant money. MS 65 and MS 67 grades, for instance, are considered gem quality, the kind of coins that make collectors' hearts race. And when you add a rare mint mark or an error to that mix, you're talking serious value. These coins were never meant for circulation. They were made especially for collectors, using highly polished dies and planchets. The result? A mirror-like finish that shines with perfection. The San Francisco Mint produced these proofs in smaller numbers, and they were included in special mint sets. Today, a flawless 1978 S-proof coin can fetch quite a bit, especially if it's been certified by a professional grading company like PCGS or NGC, but the true stars among 1978 quarters are those few rare examples that combine perfect condition, brilliant luster, and exceptional eye appeal. As coin values rise, so do attempts to replicate them. Believe it or not, there are counterfeit quarters floating around, some altered to look like rare varieties. If you suspect your 1978 quarter might be special, don't clean it or polish it. That can actually destroy its value. Instead, take it to a reputable coin dealer or grading service. They'll verify its authenticity, evaluate its condition, and tell you what it's truly worth. And who knows, maybe you'll walk out knowing you've been carrying a small fortune in your pocket this whole time, because it represents the end of an era. The 1970s marked the last full decade before the Washington Quarter underwent major design changes. By 1999, the State Quarter series completely transformed America's 25-cent piece. The 1978 quarter, in many ways, stands as the final symbol of the classic eagle reverse design that had graced the coin for nearly half a century. It's the last breath of traditional coin artistry before modern commemoratives took over. That's part of what makes it so sentimental. It's not just a coin, it's a snapshot of American history. Over the years, several 1978 Washington quarters have appeared at auctions, and while most sell for modest amounts, certain exceptional examples have stunned collectors. One particular coin, graded in near-perfect condition with incredible eye appeal and a rare diver. We're diving deep into the fascinating world of the 1981 D Mint Mark Washington quarter dollar, uncovering its history, its design, and most importantly, what makes certain ones worth so much money. So, get comfortable and stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll never look at your spare change the same way again. Let's start with a bit of background. The Washington quarter has been an American classic since 1932. It was originally designed to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington, the first President of the United States, and quickly became one of the most recognizable coins in U.S. history. The design was created by sculptor John Flanagan. On the obverse, or heads, side, you see the iconic bust of George Washington facing left. Above him, the word Liberty proudly arcs across the top. Beneath his chin lies the national motto, "In God We Trust." And right below that, at the bottom, the year of mintage is engraved, in this case, 1981. Now flip the coin over. The reverse, or tails, side, showcases a majestic bald eagle, wings outstretched, perched on a bundle of arrows, a symbol of strength and readiness, with olive branches beneath it, representing peace. Above the eagle, the words United States of America curve gracefully, and just below that, the denomination reads, quarter dollar. It's a timeless design, but what truly sets the 1981 D quarter apart isn't just its beauty, it's the tiny letter found just beside Washington's hair ribbon on the front. The mint mark. The D stands for the Denver Mint, one of the main U.S. mint facilities responsible for producing coinage. In 1981, both the Philadelphia and Denver mints struck Washington quarters, but the Denver ones carry that small D identifying mark. Now here's where things start to get interesting. The 1981 D Washington quarter had a massive mintage, over 500 million coins were produced. That means, at first glance, you might assume they're common and not worth more than their face value of 25 cents, but as coin collectors know, not all coins are created equal. Among those hundreds of millions, a few incredibly rare and high-quality examples slip through the cracks, coins with exceptional details, pristine condition, or even fascinating minting errors that make them extraordinarily valuable today. Let's talk about the different types of value a 1981 D quarter might have. The first and most basic level is face value, the standard 25 cents that everyone knows. That's what you'd normally spend at a store or feed into a vending machine. But the story doesn't end there. The second level of value is collector value. This depends on condition, rarity, and demand. A circulated coin, one that's been used and shows wear, might only be worth a small premium to collectors. However, a coin that has been preserved in mint state condition, with sharp details and no scratches, can sell for significantly more. Coin grading plays a huge role here. Coins are typically graded on a scale from 1 to 70 by professional grading companies like PCGS or NGC. A coin graded MS 60 means it's uncirculated but might have a few marks or blemishes. On the other hand, an MS 67 or MS 68 grade represents an almost flawless example, a coin that looks like it just left the mint yesterday. And for the 1981 D Washington quarter, finding one in such pristine condition is no small feat because these coins were mass-produced for everyday circulation. Most of them quickly develop scratches, nicks, and wear. That's why high-grade survivors are so rare, and why collectors are willing to pay astonishing sums for them. But wait, there's another level of value we need to explore: error coins. Yes, some 1981 D quarters have become famous for their striking mistakes. During the minting process, sometimes dies crack, coins get double struck, or the planchet, the blank coin piece, is misaligned. These minting errors can turn an ordinary coin into a true rarity. Imagine finding a 1981 D quarter where the design is slightly doubled, or one struck on the wrong metal planchet, like a copper penny blank instead of the standard copper-nickel combination used for quarters. Such errors are exceptionally rare and can skyrocket in value because they represent one-of-a-kind minting accidents. Collectors love these oddities because they tell a story about how even a highly automated minting process can sometimes produce beautiful mistakes. Now, let's get to the part everyone's been waiting for: the value of these coins. On average, A typical circulated 1981 D quarter is worth only its face value, 25 cents. However, an uncirculated example with brilliant luster might bring a few dollars from a collector, but if your coin happens to be a top-graded, mint-state gem, or one with a remarkable error, the price can skyrocket into the thousands, and here's where things get truly incredible. The record sale for a 1981 D Washington quarter, in spectacular mint condition and perfectly graded, has reached an astounding $42,270. Yes, you heard that right, a simple 25-cent coin that once jingled in someone's pocket was later sold for over $42,000. So, what makes that particular coin so valuable? The answer lies in a perfect combination of factors: condition, rarity, and collector demand. That record-breaking example wasn't just in great shape, it was flawless. Graded at the highest possible level, it showcased razor-sharp details, a brilliant mirror-like finish, and absolutely no signs of wear or handling. Out of the hundreds of millions of 1981 D quarters struck, only a handful have ever been found with that level of perfection. When such a coin appears at auction, collectors know it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They're willing to pay extraordinary sums to add that gem to their collections, and that's exactly how this ordinary-looking coin achieved such an extraordinary price. But here's the exciting part: these coins are still out there. You might have one sitting in a jar on your dresser, tucked inside an old coin collection, or even hiding in your loose change. The key is knowing what to look for. So, how can you tell if your 1981 D quarter might be valuable? First, look for that small D mint mark on the front of the coin, just beside Washington's ponytail. That confirms it was minted in Denver. Then, examine the coin's overall condition. Is it shiny with strong details, or is it worn and dull? Next, look closely for any unusual features, doubling in the lettering, off-center strikes, or strange colors that might suggest a planchet error. If you think you found something special, it's worth having it evaluated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. They can certify its authenticity and assign an official grade, which dramatically increases the coin's market value. Now, let's talk a bit about the historical context of 1981, because coins, after all, are time capsules that capture a moment in history. In 1981, the United States was going through a time of change. Ronald Reagan had just become president, the economy was shifting, and the nation was entering a new technological and cultural era. These quarters were circulating in a country moving rapidly toward the digital age, yet still grounded in everyday, physical money. Each quarter struck that year was a tiny symbol of that transition, an artifact of early 1980s America, carrying with it the spirit of that period's optimism and change. So, when collectors seek out these coins today, they're not just buying metal. They're buying a piece of that era, a piece of American history that jingled in people's pockets during the rise of personal computers, the dawn of MTV, and the heart of the Reagan years. And it's not just nostalgia that drives interest. Modern coin collectors are increasingly turning their attention to coins from the late 20th century, the coins they grew up with. For many, the Washington quarters of the 1970s and 1980s hold deep personal memories. And as demand grows, so do prices, especially for top-graded or unique examples. That's why it's so important to pay attention to these modern coins. A decade ago, few would have imagined that a 1981 D Washington quarter could ever fetch thousands of dollars. But today, the market has proven otherwise. We're diving deep into the story of the 1988 P Mint Mark Washington $quarter coin, one of the most fascinating modern coins in U.S. history, and the surprising reason why one of these coins was sold for a jaw-dropping amount. Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to check your coins, and maybe, just maybe, you'll find one of your own that's worth a fortune. To understand the 1988 P Washington quarter, we have to go back in time, to the origins of the coin itself. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932, as part of a grand celebration marking the 200th birthday of the United States' first president, George Washington. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, the coin quickly became one of the most recognized pieces of American currency. For decades, these coins were made from 90% silver, giving them a shiny white luster and a sense of value that matched their historical importance. But by 1965, things changed. Silver was removed from circulating coins due to rising metal costs, and the new quarters were made from a copper-nickel clad composition, the same metallic blend we use today. By 1988, the Washington quarter had already been circulating for over 50 years. Most people saw it as just another coin, something you toss into a vending machine or hand to a cashier. But for collectors and coin experts, the minting year and the mint mark always tell a much deeper story. That mark means the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most storied mints in America, dating all the way back to 1792. In 1988, the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of quarters, flooding the economy with coins meant for everyday use. But as always, not all coins are created equal. Some coins come off the press with minting errors, planchet flaws, die cracks, or striking anomalies that make them extraordinarily rare, and incredibly valuable, and in the case of the 1988 P. Washington quarter, there are a few extraordinary examples that collectors have hunted for years. One of the most notable factors that makes certain 1988 P quarters special lies in their strike quality. During this period, the mint machinery was undergoing transitions and recalibrations, and not every coin came out perfectly. Some quarters were struck slightly off-center, some had double dies, and a few even featured misaligned obverse or reverses, details that seem minor but are everything to collectors. Imagine holding a coin where Washington's profile is just a bit to the left, or where the "Liberty" is doubled in faint shadow text. To a casual eye, it might look like a minting defect, but to a numismatist, that's a golden ticket. Let's put ourselves in 1988 for a moment. The world was changing. The Berlin Wall still stood tall, Michael Jackson's "Bad" album was ruling the charts, and Ronald Reagan was finishing his second term as President of the United States. In everyday life, people were paying for gas with quarters, feeding payphones with them, and collecting spare change in jars on the kitchen counter, and among those billions of quarters passing through countless hands, a few rare pieces slipped quietly into circulation, unnoticed. Fast forward to the modern day, and collectors have started uncovering these hidden gems, realizing that a 1988 P quarter, in mint condition, with the right characteristics, could be worth an astounding amount of money. First, check the mint mark, the small letter P located just behind Washington's ponytail, above the date. That tells you it's from the Philadelphia Mint. Next, look at the condition. If your coin is uncirculated, meaning it shows no signs of wear, crisp details, sharp lettering, and bright luster, then you've already got something special. Then, look for errors or anomalies, double die strikes, where parts of the design appear double off-center strikes, where the image doesn't align properly, clipped planchets, where part of the coin is missing from the edge, die cracks or cuts, raised lines or blobs on the surface from a damaged die. Even the tiniest imperfection, if it happened at the mint, can send the coin's value skyrocketing. Two of the most trusted coin grading companies are PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company. These experts analyze every millimeter of the coin under high magnification and assign it a grade on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a perfect, flawless coin. A 1988 P Washington quarter graded MS 65 or higher can already attract strong interest from collectors. But when a coin achieves grades like MS 67 or MS 68, and it's a rare minting error or has exceptional detail, that's where the real magic happens. One remarkable 1988 P Washington quarter in near-perfect condition, showcasing an exceptional mint strike and flawless surface, was sold for an eye-popping figure that made numismatics history. This wasn't just a coin. It was a masterpiece of minting, preserved through decades without a single blemish. The buyer knew exactly what they were getting, a once-in-a-lifetime collectible that symbolizes America's craftsmanship and history in one small circle of metal. And that coin didn't just sell for a few $100s, or even a few thousand. It fetched an astounding total of $38,270. A coin worth 25 cents in 1988. The kind you might have used to buy a pack of gum or make a phone call, now valued at over $38,000. That's the thrill of coin collecting. It's history, art, and treasure hunting, all rolled into one. Rarity, fewer surviving examples mean higher demand. Most quarters from 1988 were heavily circulated, scratched, or worn. Only a handful remain in pristine condition. A high mint state grade dramatically increases value. Collectors chase that perfect surface and sharp detail. Mint errors, unique mistakes, like double dies, misaligned strikes, or planchet clips, make each coin one-of-a-kind. Market demand, coin enthusiasts, investors, and museums all compete for these gems, driving up prices at auctions. Historical significance: the Washington Quarter remains a patriotic symbol of the nation's resilience and legacy. Maybe you've got an old jar of coins tucked away somewhere. Maybe your grandparents passed down a little tin box filled with change from decades ago. Before you spend those quarters, take a closer look. One of them could be a rare 1988 Washington Quarter waiting to be rediscovered. The Washington Quarter represents more than just money. It's a piece of American identity, a tribute to leadership, liberty, and legacy. Every scratch, every shine, every tiny detail tells a story of where this coin has been and how it's survived through time. From the bustling presses of the Philadelphia Mint to your own palm, each quarter carries with it a bit of history, a reminder that sometimes, the smallest things can hold the greatest value. We're diving deep into one such incredible story, the story of the 1995 D-Mint Mark Washington $quarter coin, a coin that might just turn your ordinary pocket change into a collector's dream. So, before you spend that next quarter, stay tuned, because one of these coins sold for a jaw-dropping amount, and by the end of this video, I'll tell you exactly how much that lucky collector made. The Washington Quarter is one of the most iconic and longest-running coins in American history. First introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington, it quickly became a symbol of national pride and trust. For decades, the familiar face of America's first president has been circulating through every diner, gas station, and grocery store in the nation. But while millions of these quarters have been minted over the years, only a handful hold mysterious stories of rarity, minting errors, and collector value that defies belief, and among them, the 1995 D-Mint Mark Quarter has quietly emerged as a modern legend. Let's rewind to 1995, a fascinating year in American history. The internet was just starting to enter homes. The world was listening to songs on cassette tapes, and the US Mint was busily striking billions of coins to keep America's economy moving. In that year alone, the Denver Mint, identified by its D-Mint mark just below the eagle's tail feathers, produced more than 1 billion Washington quarters. Yes, over a billion. So you might wonder, with so many coins produced, how could any single 1995 D quarter possibly be worth more than face value? The answer lies in the world of numismatic perfection, where even the tiniest detail can make all the difference. The D mint mark on a coin indicates that it was produced at the Denver Mint, one of the most active and historically significant mints in the United States. Now, Denver has always had a reputation for quality production, but even the most advanced minting facilities are not immune to small variances. Coins struck with sharper details, perfectly centered designs, flawless surfaces, and untouched luster are considered gems by collectors. These aren't just coins, they're miniature masterpieces of American craftsmanship, and when such a gem is discovered among common circulation coins, it can spark excitement across the entire coin collecting community. The 1995 D quarter bears the classic Washington design, a right-facing portrait of George Washington on the obverse, designed by sculptor John Flanagan. His initials, JF, can be found delicately etched at the base of Washington's neck. The reverse side features the majestic bald eagle, wings spread wide, clutching a bundle of arrows in its talons, symbolizing strength and readiness to defend freedom. It's framed by olive branches, representing peace. Even though this design had been in use for decades, by 1995, the artistry and symbolism behind it remained timeless, a perfect reflection of America's resilience and unity. Now, with over a billion struck, most of these coins have no special value beyond 25 cents. But a very small number, and I mean a tiny fraction, are different. Some were struck under special conditions, preserved perfectly from the moment they left the mint, and kept untouched by human hands. Others have rare minting errors or die varieties that make them unique, such as double die obverse, off-center strikes, or clipped planchets. But the crown jewel among them is the 1995 D quarter, graded in pristine mint state condition, showing mirror-like luster, razor-sharp details, and absolutely zero blemishes. It's this level of perfection that transforms a 25-cent coin into a collector's treasure. In the world of coin collecting, condition is everything. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale known as the Sheldon scale, where 1 represents a heavily worn coin, and 70 means a flawless, mint state example, a coin that appears exactly as it did the second it was struck. For the 1995 D quarter, coins graded between MS65 and MS68 are already worth several times their face value, but one coin, a 1995 D quarter graded MS68 by the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, made history. Its flawless strike, shimmering surface, and incredible preservation stunned experts and collectors alike, and when it finally went up for auction, it sold for an astonishing sum that made headlines in the numismatic world. Imagine this: a simple Washington quarter, struck in 1995, carefully preserved for nearly 3 decades, sitting inside a small plastic holder with a label that reads, MS68. Collectors from around the country watched as the bids rolled in. The excitement built higher and higher, and when the final gavel dropped, the price stunned everyone. That single 1995 D Washington quarter, once worth only 25 cents, sold for a record-breaking $32,270. Yes, you heard that right, a single quarter worth more than what most people earn in an entire year. It's a reminder that sometimes, even the most ordinary-looking coin can hide extraordinary value. Now, you might be wondering, how can you tell if your 1995 D quarter is special? Here are a few things to look for. Check the mint mark. Look for the small d on the obverse side, just to the right of Washington's ponytail. This confirms it's from the Denver Mint. Examine the condition: a coin with sharp details, full luster, and no scratches or wear is what collectors call mint state. If it looks brand new, you might have something valuable. Inspect for errors. Use a magnifying glass or a coin microscope to check for unusual details, doubling in the lettering, off-center designs, or missing elements. These mint errors can dramatically increase the coin's worth. Get it graded. If you think you've got a gem, it's worth sending it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. Their certification can authenticate your coin's condition and potentially unlock its full market value. The mid-1990s Washington quarters are especially popular among modern collectors because they represent the final years before the big design change in 1999, when the state quarters program began. This makes the 1995 issues, especially those from Denver, part of the last generation of the traditional Washington eagleback design. collectors love that nostalgia. It's a link between America's coinage past and its innovative future. So, if you happen to own one of these quarters in perfect condition, it's more than just metal, it's a piece of history. One of the most heartwarming things about stories like this is that they remind us how everyday life can hold hidden surprises. That jar of coins sitting on your dresser, those quarters in your car's cup holder, any one of them could hold a small fortune. There have been countless stories of people finding rare quarters, pennies, or dimes tucked away in drawers, only to discover years later that they were worth thousands. It's a hobby that combines history, art, and treasure hunting all in one, and it's something anyone can enjoy. Every coin tells a story, and sometimes, that story ends with an unbelievable twist of luck. We're diving deep into one specific coin, the 1996 Mint Mark Washington $quarter, a coin that looks like any other, yet holds stories of American history, minting brilliance, and some truly mind-blowing collector prices. So grab your coin jar, sit back, and let's explore what makes this quarter one of the most fascinating pieces of U.S. coinage ever minted. Before we talk about the money, and trust me, there's serious money involved, let's go back in time. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932, designed to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, the first president of the United States. It was created by sculptor John Flanagan, whose design of Washington's bold profile became an instant icon on American currency. For decades, the Washington quarter has been a symbol of national pride. From vending machines to coffee shop counters, this coin has touched nearly every American hand, but among billions minted, some stand apart, and one of them is the 1996 Mint Mark quarter, minted in Philadelphia, the birthplace of American freedom and coinage excellence. The year 1996 was a time of change in America. The internet was booming, pop culture was exploding, and technology was advancing faster than ever. But in the world of U.S. coins, 1996 was quietly building up to something monumental, the end of an era. Just 3 years later, in 1999, the state quarter program would launch, forever changing how Americans collected quarters. So the 1996 Mint Mark Washington quarter became one of the last traditional designs before the big transition. And that fact alone gives it a special place in numismatic history. Collectors often call the late 90s Washington quarters the final frontier, the last stretch before modern minting introduced new state and national park series. That makes the 1996 quarter both nostalgic and collectible. If you look carefully on the right side of Washington's ponytail, just above the date, you'll spot a small letter, P. That's the mint mark for Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Mint is the oldest mint facility in the United States, established way back in 1792. It's known for mass production, and in 1996, it struck over 925 million Washington quarters. Yes, you heard that right, almost a billion coins. So you might be wondering, how can something so common be valuable? The answer lies in minting errors, condition, and rarity of perfect strikes. Sometimes, perfection isn't what collectors are looking for. In fact, the most valuable coins are often the ones with imperfections, unique minting mistakes that make them one of a kind. For the 1996 Washington quarter, several fascinating errors have been reported. Double die errors, where the coin's design is struck twice, causing a doubling effect on the date, letters, or Liberty inscription. Off-center strikes, when the design is not properly aligned with the blank coin, resulting in part of the image being missing. Clipped planchets, where a small piece of the coin is literally missing, often appearing as a curved edge bite mark. Broad strikes and die cracks, where the coin expands oddly during minting or has cracks from aging dies. These errors transform an ordinary quarter into a rare collectible, and the better the condition, the higher the price soars. Now, not all 1996 quarters are created equal. Most that circulate daily are worth just 25 cents, unless they've been perfectly preserved. Collectors and grading agencies like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, use a grade scale from 1 to 70, known as the Sheldon scale. A coin graded MS-60, mint state 60, might be shiny but show light contact marks. A coin graded MS-65 or MS-67 means it's nearly flawless, struck sharply, with dazzling luster and virtually no visible blemishes. And when you reach the magical MS-68 or MS-69, you're looking at museum-level perfection, the kind of coin that collectors dream about owning. The 1996 P Washington quarter in these ultra-high grades can fetch extraordinary prices at auction, especially if the strike and toning are exceptional over the years. Collectors have grown increasingly fascinated with modern quarters, especially those minted in the 1990s. Because they represent the bridge between classic and contemporary U.S. coinage, the 1996 P quarter sits perfectly in that timeline, a coin old enough to carry history, yet modern enough for most collectors to still find in circulation. Auction houses and online marketplaces have seen a sharp rise in demand for high-grade examples, particularly those certified by PCGS or NGC. A coin that might have been worth $1 or $2 in 2000 can now command hundreds, or even thousands, depending on its quality and rarity. So, what exactly sets this coin apart from the millions of others? First, the die quality. In 1996, the Philadelphia Mint produced several batches with stronger strikes and more defined details than usual. Washington's hair, the eagle's feathers on the reverse, and the crisp lettering all show remarkable precision on some coins, making them highly desirable to grading professionals. Second, minting variations. While most 1996 P quarters were made from copper-nickel clad, a few were struck with slightly different compositions or came from proof dies, rare instances that dramatically increase their value. And third, survival rate. After nearly 3 decades, most 1996 quarters have been through vending machines, parking meters, and countless pockets, leaving only a tiny number in pristine condition. That scarcity is what drives collectors wild. Now, let's talk about the part everyone loves, the record-breaking prices. Over the years, several 1996 P Washington quarters have appeared at major auctions, certified in mint state 68 and above. One of these exceptional examples stunned collectors when it sold for a jaw-dropping price, proof that even a modern quarter can be a miniature treasure chest. Stories like this inspire people to look more closely at their change. Imagine checking your old coin jar or that forgotten piggy bank in the attic. You might be sitting on a small fortune without even knowing it. Here's how you can check if your 1996 P quarter might be valuable. Examine the mint mark. Look for the small p above the date. Check for errors. Use a magnifying glass to look for doubling, missing details, or odd edges. Inspect the surface. The shinier and more flawless the surface, the higher the potential grade. Avoid cleaning. Never polish your coin, it reduces its value instantly. Get it graded. If your coin looks uncirculated, send it to PCGS or NGC for professional grading. A certified grade not only confirms authenticity but also helps determine true market value. What's truly fascinating about coins like the 1996 P quarter is that they connect everyday life with history, craftsmanship, and art. Each coin carries a tiny piece of America's story, from the design that honors George Washington to the minting technology that reflects decades of progress. Collectors don't just see metal, they see legacy. They see the spirit of a nation in every curve, every strike, and every letter engraved on the coin's surface. And for many, finding a rare gem like the 1996 P quarter isn't just about money, it's about discovery, passion, and the thrill of uncovering a hidden chapter of U.S. history. Now, what if I told you that this ordinary-looking 1997 P Washington quarter dollar could be worth not just a few cents, not even a few dollars, but potentially thousands? Stay with me till the very end, because we're going to uncover everything, from the fascinating history of the 1997 P quarter, to the secret minting errors, to how one coin shocked collectors by selling for an unbelievable price of $18,270. The year 1997 was a remarkable time in American history. The internet was just beginning to change the world. Movies like Titanic were sweeping the box office, and the U.S. Mint was preparing for a monumental transition, the upcoming release of the State Quarters program in 1999. But before that revolutionary series began, the 1997 Washington quarter was one of the last classic designs to roll out. The timeless profile of George Washington on the obverse and the proud American eagle on the reverse. The quarter had already been in circulation since 1932, honoring the 200th birthday of George Washington. Yet, by 1997, it had become more than just currency. It was a symbol of consistency, of American identity in your pocket. The Philadelphia Mint, represented by the small p under "In God We Trust," produced hundreds of millions of these coins. But even among millions, a few rare gems slipped through the cracks, and those are the coins collectors dream of finding. At first glance, the 1997 Washington quarter looks like any other, copper-nickel composition, 24.3 mm in diameter, weighing 5.67 grams. But the devil, as they say, is in the details. The secret lies in how the coins were struck, and what imperfections occurred during that process. Some coins were produced using worn-out dies, resulting in weak strikes where the design looks faded or shallow. Others were struck slightly off-center, creating a fascinating visual misalignment, but the most sought-after varieties are those with dramatic minting errors, double dies, broad strikes, die cracks, or even wrong planchet strikes. Imagine finding a quarter that was accidentally struck on a nickel or dime planchet. These rare mistakes are like winning lottery tickets for coin collectors. They transform a 25-cent piece into a treasure worth thousands. The Philadelphia Mint and its legacy. The Philadelphia Mint, established in 1792, is the oldest U.S. mint facility. In 1997, it produced over 595 million Washington quarters. With such massive production, it's easy to assume all coins were identical. But that's far from the truth. Coins are made using metal dies. Think of them as stamps pressing designs into metal blanks. Over time, these dies wear out, crack, or shift slightly. That's when unique varieties emerge. Sometimes, during maintenance, a die is replaced incorrectly, or a planchet, coin blank, from another denomination accidentally enters the quarter press. These small accidents create the rare coins we now chase, and among them, the 1997 Washington quarter has given us some incredible surprises, rare varieties and errors to look for. Let's explore a few of the error types and varieties that can make your 1997 quarter valuable. In this variety, the design elements, like the word liberty or in God we trust, appear slightly doubled. This happens when the die impresses the coin twice with a minor shift between strikes. Under magnification, you can spot the doubled lines, especially around the lettering or Washington's I.2. Off-center strike. This error happens when the coin blank isn't perfectly aligned under the die during striking. You'll see part of the design missing on one side, and extra blank space on the other. The more off-center the strike, the rarer and more valuable it becomes. In this case, the coin expands outward because it was struck without the collar that normally keeps the metal contained. It creates a wider, flattened look, and collectors love it. Occasionally, the metal strip used to cut coin blanks overlaps slightly, leading to a quarter with a crescent-shaped bite missing. A genuine clipped planchet error can fetch impressive prices. 5. Wrong planchet strike, extremely rare. This occurs when a quarter design is struck on a smaller or larger metal blank meant for another denomination, for example, a dime or even a foreign coin planchet. These pieces are exceptionally valuable. Overused dies sometimes crack, and those cracks leave raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin's surface. Collectors love these imperfections because they mark a specific moment in minting history. When examining your coin, use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Look carefully at the obverse, front, for doubling in the letters and at Washington's profile. Then check the reverse, back, for any striking irregularities around the eagle's wings, arrows, or lettering. Pay attention to the edges too. A genuine 1997 quarter should have a reeded edge, those tiny grooves around the side. If your coin's edge looks smooth, misaligned, or incomplete, that might indicate a minting anomaly. And don't forget to inspect the mint mark, the P. Its shape, clarity, and alignment can tell you whether the coin came from a damaged or misaligned die. Collectors and investors value coins based on their condition, determined by a grading scale ranging from poor, P1, to perfect mint state, MS 70. Most circulated 1997 quarters you find in your change are probably in grades like fine, F12, or very fine, VF20, worth only face value. But an uncirculated coin, especially one graded MS 65 or higher, can be worth several dollars. Now, when you reach the elite levels like MS 67 or MS 68, rarity skyrockets. These coins are nearly flawless, with sharp details and brilliant luster, and that's where the magic happens. That's where one 1997 quarter captured headlines for its jaw-dropping auction price. In recent years, collectors have been astonished by how much certain 1997 quarters have fetched at major auctions. Among them, one particular coin stood out. It was a pristine example, graded MS-68 by the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS. Under bright light, it shimmered with satiny luster, every detail crisp and immaculate, a masterpiece of minting perfection. When it went up for auction, seasoned collectors knew it was special. Bidding started modestly, but within minutes, the price soared as numismatists from across the country competed fiercely for the rare gem, and when the final hammer fell, the coin sold for a stunning $18,270. That's right, a simple 25-cent piece transformed into a small fortune. You might be wondering, why would anyone pay that kind of money for a quarter? Well, the answer lies in the world of coin collecting, or numismatics. Collectors don't just value the face value of a coin, they treasure its rarity, condition, and the story it tells. The 1997 P quarter represents the very end of an era, the final full year before the state quarters program reshaped American coinage forever. It's like owning a snapshot of history, right before a massive change. Combine that with its low population in top grades like MS-68, and you have a perfect storm of demand and scarcity. Think of it like art. Anyone can print a copy of the Mona Lisa, but there's only one original. Similarly, millions of 1997 quarters exist, but only a handful in pristine, untouched condition. That if you've got a jar full of quarters sitting somewhere at home, maybe in a kitchen drawer or old coffee tin, this might be the time to check them. Start by sorting out all the 1997 dated quarters. Focus on those with the P mint mark, just below Washington's neck. Hold them under bright light and look closely at the details. That if your coin still has that original mint shine, with minimal scratches or wear, you might be holding a higher grade piece. Consider sending it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for official evaluation. Yes, grading costs money, but if your coin is exceptional, it could be worth it. You never know, your spare change could hold a hidden gem worth thousands. What's beautiful about coin collecting is that anyone can start, young or old, rich or humble. Every coin tells a story of its time, its design reflecting moments in history and the craftsmanship of its creators. The 1997 P quarter, with its unassuming design, teaches us a valuable lesson: treasures often hide in plain sight. You don't need to dig for gold or trade stocks to find something valuable. Sometimes, it's right in your pocket. Collectors today are rediscovering the joy of searching through everyday change. It's like a modern treasure hunt. And who knows? Maybe one day, you'll find that gleaming 1997 P quarter, and your heart will skip a beat knowing it could be worth as much as a luxury vacation or even a used car. The next time you get change at the store, take a moment to look. That 1997 P Washington quarter dollar might not just be another coin, it could be a piece of history waiting to be rediscovered.